All right, what's going on, Notre Dame fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel. We are here in chilly South Bend. I won't call it cold because this was actually pretty good weather for mid to late November. Notre Dame 45, Wake Forest 7. It took a little bit to get there. It was only a 10-point game at halftime, 17-7 at that point. And the end of the first half, I actually wrote this in the game story at blueandgold.com, left a little to a lot to be desired. Notre Dame left 4 points on the field by having to settle for a field goal. Excellent two-minute drill there. Jack, I saw you tweet that it was kind of the Notre Dame of old, of early 2023, rolling right down the field, and then it got into the red zone and spike the ball, call a timeout after you spike. That turns out to be a very costly timeout because Notre Dame ends up, it was looking like a sack. Sam Hartman throws the ball up, Holden Stays catches it. It would have been better off incomplete. Another spike, and then all of a sudden you're kicking a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown. So that was a sour taste. But then the barrage came in the second half, Jack. It was J.D. Bertrand, forced fumble, Riley Mills recovers. Sam Hartman, play action pass to Eli Raridan for his first career touchdown. Onside kick, Notre Dame ends up doing nothing with that, but they end up fourth down stopping Wake Forest on Wake Forest's next drive of the second half. Touchdown after that. It was all Irish in the second half. That's how we got to 45-7. What are kind of your general takeaways?
Yeah, no, it was a dominant effort in the second half. Credit to a Wake Forest coaching staff for, putting all their cards on the table in the first half. They ran two trick plays in the span of like 3 or 4 plays on their drive that wound up in the touchdown. Mm-hmm. They were kind of taking it to the Irish in the run game. Yeah. They were making some plays on defense. Forced a 3-and-out to start, missed field goal. But Notre Dame, I think, was able to regroup at halftime. That 2-minute drive, even though it ended very poorly for the Irish, ending in a field goal after a botched sequence, I think it was a kind of a spark that Notre Dame needed going into halftime. Then after halftime, J.D. Bertrand forced fumble, Eli Raridan touchdown. Then they get the onside kick, don't do anything with it. But the route was on from there. It was a total team performance in the second half. We'll get into specifics shortly. The impressive part offensively, as I think you're going to write about for blueandgold.com, the 3 freshman receivers, Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, and Rico Flores Jr., first 100-yard receiving game, I think since Kevin Austin Jr. and Lorenzo Stiles in the Fiesta Bowl in 2021, if you can believe that. Great game for him and the freshman receiver.
Were you a junior in college that year?
I was indeed a junior in college.
Yeah, we're talking New Year's Day 2022, the first day that Blue and Gold was ever on the On3 network. That feels like forever ago because it was. It's been 25 games since a Notre Dame wide receiver had 100 yards. Rico Flores did it today. And you're right, I'm going to write about that at blueandgold.com. It feels like more of these are coming because you have those 3 guys. I turned to you in the press box when Jaden Greathouse scored his touchdown. I said, we've seen some really good things from Jaden Greathouse this year. That was the most straight line burst and just flat-out speed that I've seen from him to score on the right sideline there. From our view, it would have been, I think, the left for you guys watching. We're on the opposite end of Notre Dame Stadium here. He was moving to our left, to your guys' right. Audric Estime, let's talk about him because this might have been the last game that he ever played on that field down there at Notre Dame Stadium. Kind of interesting that, I mean, there's not a whole lot left to play for. Let's be honest here. Notre Dame only has 2 more games beyond this. Audric Estime might not even play in a bowl game. But he had 8 carries in the fourth quarter today after only having 3 carries in the entire second half against Clemson. Marcus Freeman said that was intentional, a little bit to his dismay, but somebody told Audric Estime on the sideline, hey, you're only 20 yards away from 100. You want to go get it? And he said yes. Yeah. Just how much of a joy has it been to cover that guy? Runs hard, great to cover in press conferences, and then he shows up again today on senior day, even though he's a junior, but this might have been his last game.
He's a joy to cover. He's a heck of a player, and I think he's got an NFL future ahead of him. And I think it for all intents and purposes, is probably a good idea for him. Running back shelf life tend to be short to come out after this year. I wouldn't have said that with as much certainty as I am now going into the season, but he's really become more of a complete running back. He's gotten faster. He's gotten a little slimmer. He is much more useful in the passing game than he was last year. He's graded pretty well in pass protection, certainly better than he did last year. That's what those NFL teams are going to be looking for. You're right. He's been a joy to cover. He's an all-purpose back, and I think he's going to hear his name called if he chooses to come out in this year's draft.
I think you'd hear his name called as well. Kyron Williams, I know he got injured, but same kind of thing where you don't know if he's really an NFL guy for different reasons for both of those players, but he's worked out when he's been healthy in the NFL. I think Audric Estime would work out as well. We're not going to talk NFL with this guy because I'm not sure, but we have to talk about him considering he spent 5 years with the program that just played against Notre Dame today. Obviously, he's been everything for better or worse for Notre Dame this season. But Sam Hartman finishes with a gem of a game, 21 of 29, 277 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It was the Sam Hartman game when it was supposed to be the Sam Hartman game.
Look, I think when you as a Notre Dame fan are going to look back, and us as writers are going to look back at this season and Sam Hartman's time with Notre Dame, you're not going to remember Louisville, you're not going to remember Clemson, you're going to remember moments like, before the game, senior day, Hartman gets the loudest cheer of anyone, of any of the seniors. He got a massive standing ovation. You remember the beginning of the fourth quarter where Hartman was shown on the Jumbotron with Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You" playing. The crowd loved that. Hartman, I think, deep down loved it too. He's meant a lot to this program. He's brought some life into it. Yeah. He was a big reason there was so much hype behind the season, even though it all didn't work out. He made the season a lot more interesting, and I think he's going to leave a good legacy here at Notre Dame.
I know you're going to write about this at blueandgolden.com, so I'll let you talk about it. It's going to make its way into the video here, but I'm going to first say, before he signed off, Sam Hartman did say there's 2 left. So I think I said you probably won't see Audric Estime in the bowl game because running back shelf life, exactly what you just said, Jack. There's no reason for him to play in that game. Sam Hartman might finish this thing out and play all 13 games in a Notre Dame uniform. Yep. What won't happen in that bowl game, wherever it is a flying object, a projectile coming from the stands, landing in Sam Hartman's drink. What the heck are you talking about, Tyler Horga? Jack Sobel, tell everyone.
Yeah, so Hartman, during his press conference, in the middle of a question about something else entirely, just goes like, "This is the last thing I'm going to say." Poor Tyler Horka sitting in the front row with the microphone, saying, "Wait, what is he saying that for?" And Hartman goes like, "There was this girl in the student section. He had a hot chocolate in his hands. There was a girl, not like in the front row or anything, I think a little ways up, who had a marshmallow. Like, fans were throwing marshmallows onto the field. She had a marshmallow, and she threw it into Sam Hartman's hot chocolate from a sizable distance. Hartman, of course, chugged it. He made a point to say that. Those kind of stories are what people are going to remember about Sam Hartman here.
Yeah, he's thrown a couple interceptions. He's lost a couple games, but the charisma that this guy oozes, you don't get that from everybody. Couple more things on quarterbacks, though. Steve Angeli with another beautiful pass. It was him who threw the touchdown pass to Jordan Faison in the corner of the end zone. I tweeted, "Hey, future of Notre Dame, maybe?" I think Jordan Faison has solidified himself as a playmaker in this offense for years to come. Everyone's kind of wanting to gloss over Steve Angeli. I know our colleague Mike Singer is the last one that wants to do that. I actually like his game, too. He's a big guy, can make the throws. Not the most mobile, although in that blue gold game a couple years ago, he showed that he can move his legs a little bit. So really good pass there, and I thought it was funny. Another Hartman gem from the press conference. He joked that Steve Angeli should just walk away from football right now because the numbers that he's put up, all in garbage time, obviously. He hasn't thrown a pass outside of garbage time this year. Incredible numbers. Yep. He comes in, and I was sitting in the press box over there. I looked at everyone. I was like, Steve Angeli's about to ball out. That's what he does in the fourth quarter of these games. So very good night for him. Very good night for the Notre Dame defense again. Let's finish with those guys because you're going to write about him for your 5 thoughts. Just a phenomenal year. What was it? Yep. The stat that was brought up in the press conference, 8 touchdowns allowed in 6 games. Guys, Ohio State was on the schedule. USC and the reigning guys, I know they finished their year terribly, but that's Caleb Williams and a lot of playmakers. 8 touchdowns allowed in 6 games at Notre Dame Stadium. Jack, what can you say about this Irish defense?
I don't know if there's too much left to be said about this Irish defense. I mean, obviously, we talk about offense. Everyone wants to hear about quarterbacks. Frankly, offense gets more clicks. But defense, the defense is so worth talking about over and over and over again. It's just been that dominant all year. It was really dominant today. -4 total yards for Wake Forest in the first quarter. Yes. I mean, that is phenomenal for this Notre Dame defense. Specific guys. I don't know if any one player really stood out tonight.
Javonte
Jean-Baptiste early in the game. Javonte Jean-Baptiste had the blocked field goal, sack, tackle for loss, and a quarterback hurry in the first quarter. A big 4th down stop. It was Howard Cross the third, and Jack Kaiser on that. J.D. Bertrand with the first fumble. Those were some of the highlights. But the guys who are the engines behind this defense, and I'll continue to say this, are the guys whose names you don't hear about too often. It's Benjamin Morrison, it's Cam Hart, and you hear about Benjamin Morrison a lot, not so much in the stat sheet. He only has 2 interceptions to his 6 last year.
I knew that number was going to come down.
Yeah, of course it was going to come down. If Xavier Watts comes back, that number is going to come down. Yeah. But he has. Don't think for a second he hasn't been as good, because he has been phenomenal. He and Cam Hart have been excellent this year at the outside corner spots.
Yeah, Cam Hart's going to get picked in this year's NFL draft probably. I think he has another year of eligibility, but he's got to go. It's time. He put the year on tape that he needed to. He stayed healthy this year. Benjamin Morrison's going to get picked in the first round next year, or 2025, after his junior year in 2024. I firmly believe that he's a first-round talent at corner. But, Jack, I'll end that conversation agreeing with you completely that outside of Xavier Watts and the ball just seeming to find him, which, by the way, he's the one that picked up JJB's blocked field goal and returned it 20 yards and kind of got that 2-minute drill started. That was before the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. It's just everybody. And I think we need to mention Al Golden in this because it's the defensive line, it's the linebackers, it's the secondary. I mean, Thomas Harper looks really good. The safety play has been great with Xavier Watts, but I think DJ Brown, some people love or hate him, but he's in on
largely very solid.
He's in on a lot of plays. And then Marcus Freeman even said today, what's the key to a really good passing offense and holding Wake Forest under 100 yards passing today? It's the guys up front who get to the quarterback one, really good 5-man pressure. When Notre Dame brought 5 today, very effective. But they also stopped the run. It wasn't as great today. There were some holes in the running game, but overall throughout the course of the season, Notre Dame's done those 2 things well enough for the secondary to kind of sit back and say, hey, I got faith in those guys, so I got faith in myself. So, I mean, we're kind of throwing flowers all over these guys, but we should. It was a 45-7 victory for Notre Dame today, and I'll leave you guys with one stat. It might make you a little bit mad because it's a little bit of a what could have been stat, but I mentioned this to Marcus Freeman in the post-game press conference. Notre Dame outscored opponents here at Notre Dame Stadium this season 262-71, and that is with the 17-14 loss to Ohio State. So the competition here wasn't great, but look, you played, like I mentioned, you played Ohio State and USC on this field, and that is still the numbers that you're looking at. So, Jack, I think we pretty much wrapped this one up. And we'll both be in California, the Bay Area, next week to recap the regular season finale. I can't believe that's already here, but we'll be talking about Notre Dame and Stanford around this time next week. Until then, stay with this YouTube channel. We'll have a lot more throughout the week, and then go to blueandgold.com for everything on this game and then leading up to the Stanford game. We'll see you guys then.